Welcome to Sacred Stories, the place where divine voices are shared. I am your host, Reverend Patricia Caginello, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows on our Sacred Stories shared podcast stream at sacredstoriesmedia.com. Subscribe to our one shared stream and receive all of our shows that range from forgiveness to communicating with your spirit guides to conscious business to solar color energies and more. Sacred Stories is absolutely the place where divine voices are shared. And today, the divine voice that we're going to be speaking with is Helen Heinmiller, the author of the brand new spiritual fiction, Final Redemption, which I am so proud to say Sacred Stories Publishing has published. Final Redemption is available through Sacred Stories Publishing and through all of your favorite e-tailers worldwide. I'll tell you a little bit about Final Redemption. You know, we receive so many manuscripts of Sacred Stories, and, you know, they go to our editorial review team, and they read them and read a portion, and then they get back to me and say, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, or, you know, something in between. And Final Redemption was right off the beginning, was a 5-star, 2 thumbs up, and the editorial review team, even they didn't have to read anymore because they didn't have to read it. It's like a 300-page book. They said it's a definite yes, and we're going to just keep reading anyway because we want to see what happens because it is that phenomenal. So it is my absolute pleasure today to speak with Helen Heinmiller. She's going to share her sacred story, and we'll dig in a little bit to Final Redemption. So welcome, Helen Heinmiller, to Sacred Stories.
Hello, Patricia. Thank you for having me, and love and light to you and everyone who's listening. I'm so excited to be here to talk about Final Redemption.
I'm really excited too because what I said in the beginning is the absolute truth. And I have not had anyone in any of the books that we have reviewed so far, any of our editorial review teams say, yeah, it is just so phenomenal that I'm going to continue to read it on my own time because I need to know what happens to Emmy Harris and to our world.
Well, that's what it felt like writing the book, Patricia. I had so much fun following this journey because I didn't know how it was going to turn out either until the end. And it's just such a gift of love and light that I feel honored that I've brought through in this story.
You know, I think it is absolutely. So it's a really interesting concept to just dig in just a little bit before we jump into your sacred stories, because what I feel like is that I never really considered spiritual fiction until Final Redemption as a way for a divine voice to be shared. And I believe that is what has happened with your book, that the voice of the divine is absolutely speaking through you through a spiritual fiction novel.
Yes, and I believe, and that's why I became an author, because I think that the fiction genre is a wonderful way to introduce new spiritual concepts that might be like outside the normal paradigm. It gives everybody an opportunity to absorb the spiritual message in a different way. And when you have an inspiring story, even if you don't fully believe exactly what the spiritual message is, I find that later on, as you move through life, you may all of a sudden resonate with that spiritual message, and then you get that aha moment where it's like, oh, that's what that story was telling me. So I think it's a wonderful way for spirit to bring into the world the next greatest version of who we've come here to be. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, you know, I absolutely love that, because as I continue on my spiritual journey, I find that the divine communicates with us in whatever way we are open to, right? You know, so my personal journey started with the animals and animal totems, and I believe because I was open to the animals and nature, and other people, and then the angels, and that all continues. But other people, it's the angels. Other people, it's just different ways. Do you agree that the divine will meet us wherever we are and whatever we're open to?
Absolutely. I think that, and when you recognize that, it becomes much easier to take the divine cues too. So if you are, like from a Christian background with angels, a story, a book about angels will speak to you because you'll be attracted to it right away. And then if you're more of a scientific person, it might actually come through a sci-fi vehicle, a new concept, a new enlightenment. And even on TV shows and, the magazine articles, it comes to us in whatever way our soul is ready to take it in. And that's how we create our spiritual journey.
Yeah. That is just so beautiful. And it just makes me so incredibly happy right now, just even thinking about that, because spiritual fiction and the ability to share voices in a print media, as a way for the divine to speak, just that gets me so excited. I had not considered that before. I was just thinking it's just a really fun, great story. But that is a fun, great story, a thriller, a thrilling, I would say mystery novel. It's been compared to so many things. We'll talk about it in a second. But the idea that it's all of that, and it's also a way for the divine messages and voices to share is absolutely perfect.
Yes, I agree.
And I thank you, Helen Heinmiller, for writing it. I thank you for saying yes to the messages that are coming through for you, because I believe the divine taps pretty much everyone on our shoulders and says, hey, here I am. I have a message, or I have something you can do. And I don't believe everyone says yes. I believe everyone says yes. And so the divine taps the next person on the shoulder, as a metaphor for what's happening. But you said yes. And I thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, because it is hard work. And, when Spirit calls you, like to write a book, that was my spiritual journey. Whatever the messages that are in the story, I am learning as I write. And I've heard it say that writers write what they need to learn. So, that's why I love and I'm passionate about writing stories, because I grow as I write them, and I discover new things throughout the story that I had no idea was going to be in the story. So that's the fun part of the trip for me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your sacred story, though, because Helen Heinmiller today, who I should say, you're an author, you're a healer, you are a solar color energy expert. You do divine work through solar color energy healing also, but you didn't start out this way, right? I mean, you have a sacred story, I believe a story of courage that has brought you to who you are today.
Mm-hmm. Well, my sacred story was kind of a rough one in the beginning. I guess you would say that I was born sort of that old soul type of person. And at a very young age, I was still connected to spirit. But at that young age, you don't know that everybody else isn't. And so the things that I would say and the things that I would do at the age of 4 and 5 were very upsetting to my family and teachers, around me. And so that gift that I had of connecting with spirit, and actually probably even had some healing gift at that point, kind of got squashed, and my soul kind of pulled it back because it was getting a little too dangerous for me, because people didn't understand my connection. And so I went through life, all the way up into my 20s, not being connected to spirit anymore, but missing it. And then in my late 20s, I had angelic interventions that told me it was time to write, because I always knew I was going to be a writer, but I thought it was going to be legal thrillers. And I tried to write when they said the legal thriller, and they said, no, you have other stories to tell. And that was very hard, because the stories that were coming through weren't stories that people really were, wanted to hear about at the time. And so I had a lot of crisis and dark nights of the soul, I guess you could say, until I finally understood that, this was my calling. And some of us have to take the first step so that others can run later. And so that's the journey I had for probably 10 years, very, very dark years, of coming to terms with my gifts and being able and confident to start using them, because I know that they benefit people. It may not be the ones closest to me, but, that's my calling, and that's what I came here to do. So, but I find now that even though it's not always accepted wherever I go, I know that I am planting seeds of light, and that's what we're all here to do, is to be the light for others. And that's what I'm trying to spread.
Absolutely a story of courage. And I believe that is a story that most people can resonate. I believe that is many people's spiritual journey today, is that idea that you're feeling something that is not necessarily accepted by your family, by your community, but it burns so deeply in your soul, that it has to be voiced. And the ones that have the courage to say yes, the ones that know that it is their truth, are truly the ones that I believe are helping to shape and raise the vibration of this world and affect great positive change. So I will say thank you again, Helen Heinmiller. And the only kind of thing I will just kind of say is, I guess I just hope that it doesn't, you said that a dark journey, and I understand that from an emotional perspective of working through that. And I hope that the work that we're doing at Sacred Stories, and the work that you're doing, and that everyone, all around the world is doing, will help others be able to have their journeys without feeling that it is dark or require so much courage to speak their truth and be their truth.
Well, I think that's the important part of my mission is that to show people who are going through this that you're not alone. You're not the only one experiencing this. And if I had that, at some point in those early years of trying to figure this out, I would have not had the dark experiences, because I would have had somebody to relate to and to go to. And, to have that support, because I think a lot of times we just all feel like it's only happening to us. And like you said, this is something happening to everyone at some point in their life, that they're facing these kinds of challenges. Right.
Absolutely. So Sacred Stories community, listeners now and far into the future, you are not alone. There are many of us, and spiritual community is very, very important. And the support is here for you. For sure. I absolutely believe that. And I say thank you to everyone who has the courage, to say yes to the divine voices that are speaking through them, or their divine voice. So Helen, let's dig in a little to Final Redemption, though, because the divine absolutely speaks through your book. We're not going to give any secrets away, but let's let everyone know, an idea of what Final Redemption is about. I know we asked the question, if God asked you to save the world, would you say yes? Right? That is a part of the marketing around Final Redemption. So start there with.
Well, Final Redemption is a story about a young girl named Emmy Harris who thought she was living a pretty average life for the chaotic times that she lives in, and until one day when a mysterious angelic woman appears from her past with a disturbing message from God, that question that you just posed, that God was asking her to save the world. And this pulls the rug out from under her in her life, and it leads her on an adventure where she ends up thrown to the center of an international crisis that not only threatens her life, but is threatening humanity's survival. And Emmy is face to face with evil itself. And she's this young, very innocent woman who has to reach down into the depths of her soul to figure out how to survive this, and actually how to help save the world. So it's quite a journey that this young girl goes on to discover what it is that we need to do to help save the path that we're on in the world of, heading into chaos and all of the negative paths of nuclear proliferation and all the big things that threaten our world. How are we going to change the path that we're on?
So I look at Final Redemption, and it gets really incredibly thrilling, and it goes really deep, and we're talking about covert operations and the government, and, it really becomes a mission against evil, right? Mm-hmm. I think of it almost like a James Patterson, compared to a James Patterson, but, from a very spiritual perspective. Would you agree with that? Would you agree that that is a good comparison for the type of thriller that it is?
Yes, I actually, somebody described it as a Tom Clancey meets Dan Brown book, where it's got the action and adventure, but it also has the spiritual intrigue and mystery in it.
I absolutely love that. We should market it that way. We should put that review up. No, I think that's perfect. So a better example, Tom Clancey meets Dan Brown, who, and both of those are two of my favorite authors. It's also been described as compared to The Shack. Why would it be compared to the book The Shack? In what way is that?
I think it's because this story deals with showing us that we are more powerful than we think we are as individuals, and it reveals to us the connection to the divine that is in all of us in the midst of all of this chaotic, spiritual thriller. So it's really speaking to our personal power to make a change in the world, and that connection is a divine connection.
So what is your hope for Final Redemption? What do you hope people receive upon reading it?
I hope that people see that that's a tough one, but I guess what I want to say is I hope that people come away with an understanding that there is a power source inside of each of us that is the answer to all of the troubles in the world. And I know that sounds very simplistic and maybe naive, but this is a very serious message in this book, that the way we will change our personal lives and the world is through discovering this power that is in each of us and is equal in all of us. And so that's what I'm hoping people just start to think about, their own personal responsibility for what is going on in the world. We are responsible for it. Inaction is an action, but we do not all have to be Mother Teresa's in the world to make the changes that will bring us to a more peaceful existence in humanity. So it's a big message inside of this story.
So I love that you say to help change the world, to discover the power that is in each of us. I'd like to restate that and say the power that it is each of us. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Does that work for you also? Because I feel that we are embodied. I know that we are embodied spirits, and so I think language is limiting, but can we expand that to say the power that is each of us?
Yes, we are the power. We are the divinity that can create miracles in our lives. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I do too. So Final Redemption is not only a Tom Clancey meets Dan Brown spiritual thriller that has angels and covert government agencies and a mission to save humanity, all wrapped up in one. It speaks to the power that is each of us. It speaks to, people have compared it to The Shack also, in that transformative message that comes from reading it. And it's just great fun, though, at the same time. It's just great fun because at the same time, it is a beautiful spiritual fiction. And fiction books are just amazing to just dig in and just take you to places that, you may not go on your own.
Yes. It took me to Kazakhstan, and I never thought I would go there.
Absolutely. That's certainly part of the book. That's amazing. Helen Heinmiller, I absolutely am just, as I said in the beginning, so incredibly proud that Sacred Stories Publishing has published Final Redemption. I do know that it is a phenomenal book. And again, the idea that it's truly the divine speaking to all of us, divine messages coming through it, just is the cherry on top, for me. So I want to thank you again for writing it, for having the courage to share your voice and the voice of the divine. I'd like to ask you if there's any final words, without giving secrets away to whether the world is saved or not, that you would like to say about Final Redemption.
Well, I think Final Redemption is a story that can resonate with everyone because we all are Emmy Harris. We all are humans on a journey in life that at any moment we could come face to face with that question of if being asked to do something far beyond what we think we're capable of. And so if you are interested in looking for inspiration that can go from just facing your own personal challenges to reaching out and seeing how you can make the world better, I think this is a story that will speak to your heart, and it is entertaining and has a wonderful, loving inspiration to it. And so I am so appreciative to you, Patricia, for your support of this book and helping me bring this to the world. And I'm so happy to be part of the Sacred Stories community.
Thank you. Helen, we are happy to have you. So Final Redemption is available through Sacred Stories Publishing, through all of your favorite e-tailers worldwide, in print and ebook. Helen's website, evolvingtruths.com. You can also visit that to get more information on the book and the greater work that Helen does as a spiritual author, teacher, healer, her work with solar color energies, evolvingtruths.com. And I invite everyone to also visit sacredstoriesmedia.com, subscribe to our shared podcast stream where you'll not only receive this show, but as I said, a multitude of other shows on a shared stream, each one of them sharing the divine messages and voices of the divine. So sacredstoriesmedia.com, or check out Sacred Stories on iTunes. And again, Final Redemption by Helen Heinmiller, brand new spiritual fiction that is not to be missed. So until next time, Sacred Stories, remember to take very good care. And as always, write your sacred story well.